From WBBZ-TV Sports, it's time to beat the champ. Now, here are your hosts, Paul Peck and Sue Novoitsky.
Well, hi, everybody. I'm Paul Peck, along with Hall of Fame bowler Sue Novoitsky, and welcome to this special edition of Beat the Champ. We have had a lot of fun over the last 5 years, taking this sport to another level, seeing all the outstanding bowlers in Western New York, and seeing the reaction from the bowling community has been great as well.
Absolutely. There's so many great bowlers in this community that don't do this for a living, but still come out here and perform on the weekends as if they do it for a living. And, and as far as the community goes, I get so much input from everyone, and we have seen so many great matches throughout the years that it's fun to actually look back and see a couple of them from time to time.
All right, so here we go. It's the best of Beat the Champ. Match number one of our Classic Lanes Junior Bowling Championship features Lincoln Law Jr. and Roger Marchione, and this is Lincoln Law Jr. who will get us started off here. And already off the bat, Brian, we see he's not a two-hander, but a non-thumb one-hander. Is that what you call that? Is there do we have a bowling term for that yet?
No.
Well, feel free to make one up.
It's not a suism, so.
Lincoln
so yeah, it's basically a no-thumb bowler.
Yeah, 17 years old. Oh, that's a nice spare pickup. 17 years old from Amherst, New York is Lincoln Law Jr. And now we move over to Roger Marchione, who is getting 6 pins as part of the handicap for the 17-year-old from Buffalo. And after our run of left-handers on these lanes through the course of our competition, we got a pair of righties going at it here. And Roger will have a spare pickup opportunity as well, too. Brian Borowski, the proprietor here at Classic Lanes, is going to join us for this match as Sue is off for this week. So you were really excited and really proud of the number of qualifiers that you had for this Junior Bowling Championship and what it really says about sort of that next generation of bowlers here at Classic.
Oh, definitely. I mean, anytime you can get a bunch of kids together and to earn some scholarship money, it's always a great thing. 52 entries was very solid, and couldn't ask for much more.
Mm-hmm. And the bowling was pretty good, and the competition was pretty good as well, too?
Yes, definitely. I mean, Roger was our top qualifier, and he bowled greatly during qualifying.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think he had a 634 scratch.
Nice.
More of a direct, almost like a rocket rob, straight into it, not much hook.
All right, so he shakes off that open in the first frame with a strike in the second, and now back over to Lincoln Law Jr. And he lays down the law himself there with a strike in the second frame. Lincoln bowls for Kenmore West, as you can clearly see on his shirt there, takes part in the Pepsi Junior Bowling League Classic here at Classic Lanes on Saturday mornings. How busy, how fun, how exciting is that Saturday morning, usual Saturday mornings here for the Junior League?
It's great because I'm not here.
You're at Allie Brandt
I'm
instead?
at Allie Brandt.
Oh, I see how that works. Because you're actually coaching up there, aren't you?
I am actually coaching there. Fortunately for us here, we have 2 good coaches that really help improve the kids. Lincoln is a byproduct of that. He's really improved his game, especially during this qualifying. He did a great job.
Has a cumulative 157 average, does Lincoln, about 159 for Roger Marchione. There you see his vital statistics and that 6-pin handicap that he is getting here. And we've done this when we've been at Allie Brandt Lanes, which we were not that long ago. Same thing. Again, you like giving the kids a chance to get out on TV and bowl, and it's a good way to promote and to reward all of your junior bowling champions, right? That's the reason why you do this?
That's number one. Number two, we do want to showcase that anyone can bowl. And it doesn't matter if you're a great bowler or an okay bowler or if someone just likes to come out and fun. It's just giving kids of all abilities to bowl on TV. Sure, we'd like to see some of the higher average bowlers, but again, we like to showcase just the Joe bowler and people that come on and they're trying to improve.
And I think we've seen that through the course of doing this show and doing a lot of junior bowling and a lot of kids bowling, particularly as part of these fourth shows, that you really do see the progress. We're starting to see some of the names when we go back every year to a bowling center. You're like, man, that kid's a lot better than he was last year. And then when you guys are nice enough to invite Sue and I to the Bowling Proprietors Awards banquet every year, there's a lot of familiar names and a lot of Beat the Champ graduates, so to speak, that are really kind of racking up some trophies at those things.
Exactly. I mean, we've been doing this for a few years, having the kids bowl on TV. And when you see them from one year to the next, we see an improvement in their game. And that's from, them practicing, from getting coaching, and to having fun. So again, this is just a small step for them to get to, hopefully a higher level.
Well, and again, we have such a strong tradition of this sport in this town that, like anything else, it needs the next generation. It needs the next Zarcones and Jagozinskis and so forth, and Simonellis and Juriks and those. We need to cultivate those. And again, in getting to know everybody here, you learn that all of those names that I just mentioned all started their bowling careers on Saturday mornings at the junior bowling at their particular bowling center. That's how it happens, right?
Exactly. You get the bowling bug, if you will.
This feels like a good time to take a short break. We'll be right back with more action on Beat the Champ.
Instant replay on Beat the Champ is brought to you by Transit Lanes and Keglers. Join us for bowling, food, and drinks.
Welcome back to Beat the Champ. Let's get back to the action here on WBBZ-TV.
Well, this remains a pretty tight match between Roger and Lincoln. Again, 6-pin handicap for Roger.
So right now Lincoln is up 17 pins going into the 7th frame.
So can he maintain
And there's Sue.
that?
Hi, Sue.
And there is Sue. Look at Sue rocking the Castellone Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram scoreboard. We are required to have at least one Hall of Famer named Sue on the show at all times, so at least we have a capable fill-in. Sue, our regular Hall of Famer, Sue Navoyski, will be back with us next week at Malwitz's Island Lanes as we get rolling on a new set of competitions.
That should be fun.
Oh, it's always fun to go up there and hang out with Mike and the gang at Malwitz's.
Great spare.
Certainly,
perfect.
Always worth the $1 that it takes to get up there.
No, it's 95 cents if you have the easy pass.
Oh, okay, well, that's good to know because I do, and I didn't realize that. So, even more of a value to go up there now and hang out. So.
Save 5%.
That's right. So we're coming down the stretch here between Lincoln and Roger. This is Roger advancing to the 7th frame. Winner of this match will go to our championship match and take on the winner of match number 2 between Paige and Eric. That is coming up next year. All products of the Classic Lanes Junior Bowling Circuit and Saturday morning leagues, and that's why we're honoring the best of the best here amongst the junior bowlers at Classic Lanes. What have you noticed about how the young bowlers may be different, even when you were a young bowler? How is the sport different? How are the younger bowlers approaching the sport differently?
Well, when I was younger, if you had more than one bowling ball, you were rich.
Now, if you don't have 4,
no, if you don't have
you're
like 4,
unprepared,
8 or 10,
right?
exactly. It's
right.
It's lucky to have an LT48 and a Columbia white dot.
That's all the bowling ball manufacturers have reached. Their goal has been achieved, huh?
Yeah, I mean, we go from rubber bowling ball to reactive resin, urethane, and the technology is like night and day. And when you're drilling bowling balls, it's all side, finger, and thumb weight. And today, everything is based upon your positive axis point.
Well, that leads to an interesting discussion, or at least an interesting question. I hope it's an interesting question. At this young age, as bowlers are getting started, how many balls do they really need? How much should they be letting technology dictate things, or how much is there a sort of baseline of being a good bowler first before you start getting into that stuff?
Well, I mean, again, I always throw the golf scenario. I mean, how many clubs do you need? You don't need to have that many. I mean, you want to have, probably maybe 3 bowling balls.
Mm-hmm.
You probably want one that, has surface on it so the ball will hook when there's oil. Need something more of a polish so when they're drier. And then, I'm always a big advocate of a spare ball. I just think that's important. You look at all the pros and all your good bowlers, they have a spare ball. It's easier to hit a straight line than trying to have the ball hook into the spare.
Right.
So, I mean, usually you want at least 3
Okay,
if you're going to be of a competitive nature.
All right, that's good to know, and I'm sure there's a few parents out there will go, oh, that's what I wanted to hear, right?
Yeah, this guy's making me spend money.
Well, or making them spend less.
Yeah.
Right? Potentially. Good spare there by Roger as we come down the stretch here of our final couple of frames of match number 1 between Roger Marchione in the black and red and Lincoln Law Jr. in the blue. And Roger let that one drift off to the right side a little bit.
Yeah, the right lane is, going to be the downfall. Just making the right adjustments, as we saw with the adults. It's going to be the same thing with the kids, trying to make the proper adjustment.
17 years old, a student, and works at Wegmans is Roger Marchione. Works a student at Bishop Timon St. Jude High School, where he's on the bowling team there. And Roger stays pretty busy, again, with the leagues here. So it's going to be a victory for Lincoln, right? We've got that clinched.
Correct.
So
yes.
Lincoln Law Jr. is going to advance on to our championship match with this win over Roger Marchione. We will talk to Roger and get you ready for match number 2. We're off and rolling on our Classic Lanes Junior Bowling Championship. We're back with more Beat the Champ right after this. Well, Roger, your TV bowling Beat the Champ debut. Were you a little nervous out there?
Yeah, it was really nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
It's my first time actually being on TV like this, on an event like this, so it was extremely nerve-wracking.
Right. Well,
yes.
don't feel so bad. The hardened pros say the same thing as well too. What is it about this sport that you enjoy so much that allows that you're willing to dedicate so much time to it?
I've been doing it for about 6 years now. I started out at an Abbott League with a few of my friends. We started as little kids, just doing it kind of casually and stuff, and then I started to actually look into the sport and watch like the PBA pros, Pete Weber, Chris Barnes, all of them, and I started to realize what an actually extremely amazing sport it is. So I figured, why not continue it and better myself and my skills in it. So
that's awesome. That is great to hear. Brian, you got a little scholarship money for him.
Congratulations. Thanks for bowling Beat the Champ Juniors. There's a $90 scholarship for you.
Thank you.
All right. Good to have Roger on the show. Who's going to be our next winning bowler to advance to our championship match? We'll find out. More Beat the Champ coming up right after this. Match number 2 features Paige Fiorella and Eric Engler, with the winner to advance to our Classic Lanes Junior Bowling Championship match. And we will get it all started here in this one with Paige Fiorella, 17 years old, from Depew. Attends high school at Depew High School. And she comes into this match, Brian, with a 24-pin handicap advantage. So right off the bat, she's got a little bit of an edge that Eric's going to have to overcome. And we'll see how that plays into things. Paige comes in with a 174 average, has been bowling for about the last 12 years. And she gets it started with a nice spare.
Great way to start off. You never want to start the match with an open, so it's a good solid start.
Yeah, it's almost just for your own confidence and your psyche, it's important to start with something positive. You know, I would think you'd tell me a lot of bowlers who maybe struggle in that first frame sometimes have a hard time overcoming it. Boy, and you can see the speed and the spin rate and the rev rate that Eric Engler throws it with. He is also 17 years old. He's from Elma. Comes in with a 201 average. And that one approaching 17 miles an hour heading down the lane 32 here at Classic. Changed balls to the spare ball. Look at that. Those things spinning around. Whatever the designs are on Eric's balls, you can really see those things spinning, can't you? So spares in the first frame for both Eric and Paige. Eric Engler stays busy with bowling in a couple of leagues during the course of the week, and then the Pepsi Travel League, Junior Travel League on Sundays. And of course, as we hit October, everybody getting deep into league bowling and Saturday morning youth bowling and everything else that it's the key part of the year, time of the year for the sport.
Yeah, and Pepsi Travel League is actually on Sunday afternoon, Sundays at noon. They get to travel to many different bowling centers throughout the Western New York area.
Similar to the high level travel leagues.
Exactly, definitely. They do have a couple divisions. One's a scratch division, one's a handicap division. It's just an opportunity to go to different bowling centers, see different lane conditions, and have some good competition.
How important is that, particularly for a young bowler, to realize that you have to be able to adjust and adapt?
I think it's very important because you need to learn how to bowl at different situations. One house shot might be very dry, another one might be very oily, and you need to get out of your confident level. So that's in order way to grow is you need to experience different types.
And there really is no way to do that other than to go to different places. I mean, even if the lane conditions oil patterns are different from lane to lane, say here, to use our favorite word from last week's show, the topography is important to learn, isn't it?
It is, and then there's different environments. If someone has a lower ceiling, it's going to affect the lanes differently. Are they synthetic? Are they wood? Is the wood being taken care of? Is it being recoated? So there's so many different factors that are involved. By going to different bowling centers, that's the only way for you to grow as a bowler.
Is there such a thing as a sort of a standard in a bowling center in the way that they're built or the way that they're shaped or whatever, or is every one of them different ceiling heights and all that other stuff?
Well, I mean, according to USBC, you have to have, the lanes have to be a certain way. We get inspected every year. The gutter depth, the how the lane is. The approaches are all regulations by USBC, but in terms of the overall building, it could be anything. You get into more of the FECs where they don't have ceiling tiles; they use the trusses for their look.
3 consecutive spares to open up with for Paige Fiorella. Eric has gone spare in the first 2, working on third here. Mentioned 201 is the average for Eric. He's got about 10 people cheering him on during this Classic Lanes Junior Bowling Championship match. You saw Sue Jeziorski manning the Castellone Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram scoreboard. As a matter of fact, Sue's connection to this match is she drills the balls for Paige Fiorella, so she's got some inside knowledge there.
She does, and Sue was telling me earlier that she's actually working on her game, so Sue is a little bit of a coach for Paige.
So spares across the board here through the first 3 frames for Eric and Paige. Remember, Eric's got to overcome that 24-pin handicap for Paige as well, and that one just broke a little bit too much on the inside, and it'll leave him a bit of a challenge here in frame 4.
Yeah, that lane appears to be breaking down quite a bit more. Again, for the last 4 weeks, we've discussed that lane 32 is your tighter lane, so you can't throw the same shots on 32 as you do on 31. Oh, that was a great try.
Yeah, boy, he got the pin action he wanted. It just didn't connect.
He did.
This looks like a good time to take a break. We'll be back with more Beat the Champ right after this. Welcome back to Beat the Champ.
A drier condition creates a little more friction, which my ball will be able to roll better than on oily lanes, where when I throw it hard, the ball is going to skid for a longer period of time before it reacts, and sometimes it's a little bit too late. That's a great ball change by Eric.
And that's our first strike of the match. Perfect ball by Eric Engler.
Yeah, let's see if he can do the proper adjustment at 31, but that was a great ball change.
What's your best guess as to what prompted that change, or what he's trying to accomplish with it?
If he wasn't, I'm not sure if he was not coming out of the ball correctly or not. It seems like he was hanging up a little bit, but just the ball was reacting a little bit too much for him. So this is probably a little more of a tamer ball. It's not going to jump as much, but that time it did. Again, he is struggling on 31. I think if he opens it up a little bit more, it just seems like he's just helping it a little bit too much, and that's why it's going Brooklyn.
Well, neither Paige nor Eric can feel too bad, because our regular Beat the Champ bowlers all took struggled a little bit to figure these lanes out through the course of the last 3 weeks, and that's a tough one for Eric. After such a good first roll and a good first ball, and then not finish off the spare, that's tough. But seeing things like that has not been uncommon over the last month or so. We've seen our high-level guys struggle a little bit to master these lanes.
Well, you look back at the Dave Kirsch match where he spared for 6 frames, kept himself in the game, and was able to strike out and took the victory. So
that was a win over Pat Brick, which was a bit of a surprise.
Exactly.
So,
but he just hung around, and sometimes you just got to grind it out and do the little things in order to get the big things later on.
Yep, it's there's going to be some 40-35 football victories, and there's going to be some 13-10 ones too, isn't there?
Exactly. So whatever the lanes give you, that's what you have to do, and sometimes you just have to grind it out and just get your spares.
Well, speaking of our regular competition, it's Andy Reddig that won the last 2 matches in last week's show here at Classic, and he'll advance to Malwitz's Island Lanes, which is where our next stop is we pack up the whole Beat the Champ bandwagon here and load them up and head to Grand Island for our next series of shows.
Yes, if you notice on Paige, lane 32, the ball's just not reacting. She's throwing the exact same shot on 31, but the ball's overreacting.
So how should Paige adapt to that or adjust for that?
There's a couple different ways. Number one would be possibly, switching bowling balls or changing your line, your direction towards the head pin. But some kind of movement needs to be made, because she continually misses the head pin at 32, and the ball comes up high in 31. So again, that's just a learning curve that, sometimes you just have to make the move. Sometimes you have to make a dramatic move, but that just comes with experience.
When you're coaching some of the kids, as you do, nice strike by Eric in the 7th frame. When you're coaching the kids like you do up at Alley Brandt Lanes, at what point do you talk to them about things like that? At what point do you start to teach them? And is there such a thing as a if this then that at least to get the basic understanding down?
It's a constant thing. Because even during the Saturday morning program, lanes are a little bit different. So it's just a learning experience. When they're struggling, you try to ask them, questions. Sorry, do you need to move right or left? Is the ball coming up high or not enough? So I try to get them to think a little bit, and so then they can learn. So I ask, well, do you need to move it right or left? and then that's the start of it.
Are those the most common questions you get from the young bowlers when they're asking about making adjustments like that? Is it a left to right? Is it a ball change? I mean, is there something that's more common than others, or is there a place where you would like to see a young bowler start with adjustments?
I would always like to have them start with adjustments. I don't like to see. There's where a good shot. So she did something a little bit different on that one and had a much better ball reaction. I just hate people, spending all their money on all types of different bowling balls when it's just a little bit of an adjustment. I mean, when I was growing up, it was hand placement. Where was your hand? If you had it to the side, you get a little bit earlier roll. If you had the ball up higher, it generated a little bit more speed. So we had to do, because we didn't have the technology back then, we had to do a little bit different things in order to create a little different ball reaction.
So is it easier or harder now because of that?
Oh, it's easier.
Kind of figured you'd say that.
Well, yeah. I mean, again, always start.
So now you can throw it the same way, but change balls to get it to do the different thing you want it to do.
Yeah. It's like golf. Your drivers are a lot lighter and they go a lot further. Same thing with bowling. You go from a rubber bowling ball to a reactive resin ball. I mean, it's like night and day.
Yeah, well, I you bring up golf, and I made the investment in getting myself a hybrid rescue club for the first time, and you realize that it's a lot easier to hit that one than it is to try to hit a 4-iron or whatever, or a 5-iron.
Yeah.
It's the equipment. The equipment makes it easier on you.
Yeah, I haven't made that investment yet, but
I think I would recommend it to you. So,
if I had time for golf, I probably would.
I mean, other than the highly popular Bowling Proprietors golf tournament every year, you're not getting out and playing a lot?
No, unfortunately, work is taking precedent.
Yeah, I get it.
Even during the summer.
I get it. That's not unusual. So, Paige is doing a nice job in this match. She comes in with the 24-pin advantage, so that has given her the victory at this point. So she has been able to clinch the win, even though Eric bowled really well. That was a bit of a hurdle to overcome. So it's going to be Paige Fiorella and Lincoln Law Jr. for our Classic Lanes championship match. We'll talk to Eric and find out what he's thinking about the lanes and get you ready for our title match when we return to Classic Lanes in Kenmore. Beat the Champ comes back right after this. Paige Fiorella with the victory over Eric ENGLER. So give me a sense of how this experience was for you, Eric.
It was a lot of fun. It was just rough out there at first, and I just couldn't find anything. Couldn't make the right shots.
Brian talked about the ball change that you made, and you saw some success from that. How hard has it been learning the nuances, the mental part of this sport?
It's tough when you're leaving splits back and forth, but try to bounce back, but I switched balls too late and then found the roto grip was better, but I switched too late with it.
All right, well, see, you got good coaches like Brian. You got to
bowling, and here's a $90 scholarship for you. So
make sure you tap into the knowledge that good coaches like Brian have to make sure you make those changes not too late, but too early maybe next time.
Hopefully.
All right, we got a championship match coming. Lincoln Law and Paige Fiorella. It is next on Beat the Champ. Championship match is Paige Fiorella versus Lincoln Law Jr. The winner claims the title as the Classic Lanes Junior Bowling Champion. Now, right off the bat, Paige Fiorella goes from getting 24 pins in her last match, of which she did not need all of them to win. That's important to point that out, to now giving 8 pins to Lincoln. So Lincoln starts up 8. And if Paige can do what she did in that first match, Brian, which was be very consistent with her spares, she'll be fine.
correct. Anytime you have a different lane condition, I mean, spares are going to be higher premium. that you need to get your spares because the strikes are going to be a little infrequent. So in order to move on, you have to make your spares.
And there's your first example of making your spares right off the bat. You know, it's funny, Sue talks a lot about that, and we all love the strikes. We all love to rattle off the turkeys and all the other stuff about how many strikes you get in a row, but we probably also pay a lot of attention to those open frames as being the difference in winning and losing a match. Does sometimes the spare get lost in the effectiveness of being a good bowler?
It does, and even with the junior level, I mean, they're expecting to have strikes all the time, and it can't be that way. So
unless you're Lincoln.
Right. Well, Lincoln took a page out of other bowlers, and he's using 2 different balls on the lanes. And Paige, if you notice, she had a pink ball, and she's doing the exact same thing. Going to use 2 different balls in each lane. So they learn a little bit from our adult bowlers.
Yeah,
let's see how we can get reacted.
That's been kind of the theme of the day, and that started with Pat Brick in our first show.
Correct.
That it very quickly he determined that he needed to use different balls in 31 and 32, and I think the other guys, Sue talked a lot about that earlier a couple weeks ago on the show, that part of being a good bowler in a competition like this is go watch the other bowlers.
Correct.
And I don't necessarily know that everybody did that. Everybody's so worried about practicing and all that stuff, but watch the other bowlers. They may hand you some information.
And that's also important when you're bowling in tournaments and you're crossing lanes. It's always important to kind of keep an eye on what people are doing on the pair that you're going to be bowling next on. A lot of times you're just focused on practice and on your pair. You also have to look at your future pairs that you're going to be bowling at. Who is bowling on there? How are they going to break down the lanes? So the more knowledge you can have, the better you're going to succeed in bowling.
Yeah, and I get the sense from just within the bowling community, you could go up and ask, hey, what did you see there, or what were you trying to do? And you know, I'm sure in highly competitive situations, there's some proprietary information there, but
Correct.
Generally, if you ask a fellow bowler, what are you seeing, what are you doing, they're going to help you, right?
Right. I mean, back in the 80s, there was a big tournament in Chicago called the Peterson, where every single lane was totally different.
Really? And it was set up that way.
And they did it on
really
purpose.
Interesting.
There are no arrows, no dots on the lanes. The pins were off spot. Some of them were off spot, and you could not reset it. That whatever it was, that's what you had to do. So one lane will be like bone dry, and the other one will be super flooded. They would have rosin on the ball wheel, so there's stuff on your bowling ball. So in order to do okay in that tournament, you had to rely on other people to give you the information.
You know, I'm going to plant a seed with you here for a future Beat the Champ episode. I think that would be kind of an interesting approach for a Beat the Champ, battle where maybe the lanes are set up differently. Again, I think as this show has evolved and the bowlers that we have on the show have evolved to be so good and so smart, I think sometimes when there's an added layer of challenge, I think it makes for a fun show. I'll yield to you on something like that, but is that an idea that you think might be kind of fun to see how it's handled?
No, it'd be more complicated for us
running
the
I
bowling
see how
center.
That is,
so now you're putting more work on our plate.
Okay, well, that's the end of that.
Yeah, for me. Well, maybe someone else will pick it up.
It's not as simple as just setting up the lane machine.
Well, the lane machine only has
so
many programs with it. Then you have to create a series of different programs. Then you have to make sure that you have the proper number of links that are going to be used at one time. It's a little more complicated than just doing it.
All right. Well, I'm not going to give up on this because I think it's kind of a neat idea. What if one lane had a house shot and one lane had, say, a sports shot?
Well, actually, the Pro Tour has done that a little bit during some of the telecasts where the lanes were 2 totally different ones.
I think that would be kind of interesting, and I think that would, once again, really test our bowlers to make sure that they're adapting correctly and adjusting correctly.
Right.
And again, I know that we talk so much about the oil conditions here, it's an invisible thing that may be hard for some people to understand. Best thing I could do to tell you would be, if you get a chance to watch the PBA Tour on Fox, where they use the blue oil to display the pattern, that's a good way to get a feel for what we're talking about when we talk about oil conditions. It illustrates to everybody exactly what's going on there. And again, if you're someone that's new to the sport or new to our show and kind of wonders, what are these guys talking about all the time? It looks the same to me. That's a good way to get a feel for it.
Yeah, the PBA has done a lot of great things. You know, the viewer ratings have been phenomenal through the roof when Fox took it over. It's just so much more competitive, and people are really getting into it a lot more. And with it being on network TV, you know, 5-6 times a year, that just adds to the viewership. How big
a promoter for the sport is that for you guys, and has that been?
Well, it's great. I mean, as we actually sponsor the Pro Tour under the GoBowling.com banner. So, you know, we're, as a industry, we're investing quite a bit of money in the Pro Tour, on the men's and the women's Pro Tour. So we see great value in our professional athletes.
The action will continue on Beat the Champ in just a minute.
Instant replay on Beat the Champ is brought to you by Transit Lanes and Keglers. Join us for bowling, food, and drinks.
Welcome back to Beat the Champ.
Well, right now Lincoln has a 10-pin lead going into the 7th frame over PAIGE. Still anybody's game, still plenty opportunities for one of these junior bowlers to take the victory.
And as you can see on the Castellone Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram scoreboard, manned by Sue Jeziorski, PAIGE continuing to be very solid with those spares as well. And she'll have to pull another one out right here in the 7th frame. The winner of this gets the title of Classic Lanes Junior Bowling Champion and the scholarship money that goes along with it. And again, thanks to Brian for contributing to that and promoting the youth bowling here, not only at Classic Lanes, but around Western New York. So we're into October. When do you shut down the miniature golf course up at Alley Brant Lanes? Is that still up and running?
It is still up and running. Good. You know, we usually go to minimum Columbus Day. We usually get to the end of October. It all depends on the weather. Between the weather and the leaves. But one year we got to November.
There you go.
But
all right, well, go if you want to jam a little bowling up at Alley Brant and Lockport and get a little golf in as well too. You better hurry. You're running out of time there. So
yeah, Columbus Day is just around the corner.
That's right. And Lincoln a little disappointed that he was not able to finish off any more pins on that spare opportunity in the 7th frame.
Yeah, when matches are tight, I mean, every pin counts, and you know, you got to get those 2 pins.
And in the 8th frame, he'll have 3 to shoot for. Again, coming up in the next couple of weeks, we move up to Malwitz's Island Lanes, back in our regular Beat the Champ competition. We're also going to have a special show with some of the top matches so far from 2019. That's coming your way very soon. Nice spare pickup in the 8th frame by Lincoln Law Jr. So that'll be something fun to watch for here on Beat the Champ as we make our way towards the end of the year, as we're getting set to wrap up our 4th year of the show. It's been incredible to be a part of it. It's incredible the acceptance, not only from the bowling community, but the general public in Western New York. A week, a day, it feels like a day, but at least a week doesn't go by where a couple people don't come up and say, hey, we love you on Beat the Champ. We love watching the show. And what's always interesting to me, Brian, is it's people that necessarily don't bowl. I mean, it's obviously part of the bowling community in Western New York, but it's sometimes people that haven't bowled in 20 or 30 years, but grew up watching the show and love watching it too.
Yeah, it was just a great idea between the TV station and the bowling proprietors to bring this back and doing it a little bit different format than it was in the past. But I think
still
it's
get
just
complaints about that though.
You're always going to get complaints about doing things different, but
Right.
For being on the airways for 4 years just shows that there's still good support between the TV station proprietors and the bowlers themselves.
And for people that don't know, the original Beat the Champ that ran so successfully through the 60s, 70s, and 80s here in Western New York was 2 bowlers against each other for one show, 3-game series, and then that would be, you win it, you're the champ, and you advance to the next show. Where obviously here we're getting more bowlers involved, just to get more faces out there. So.
Exactly. I mean, that was the whole premise behind this. Plus, back then, there was only, you could qualify for TV twice. Here you have an opportunity every month to have an opportunity to be on Beat the Champ. So it's a little bit different. Again, the more people we can get bowling, the better off we're all going to be.
Nice spare pickup in the 9th frame for PAIGE FIORELLA. Yeah, absolutely. I think the neat part about it is we've developed some superstars like Zarcone and Jagosinski, and we've developed some up-and-comers and the young bowlers, and then the bowlers that we don't expect to go on nice long runs, and it's helped create interest in the show. So the more faces and names we can get out there is what's made this fun. So we'll be back. We're going to continue to bring you the best bowlers in Western New York. So tight match going on here between Lincoln Law Jr. and PAIGE FIORELLA. So we're going to come right down to the stretch here as we hit 9th and 10th frames. Lincoln could use as many of these pins as possible, and that's a big miss in the 9th frame.
That was because he could have been within 1 pin. Now it's going to be very difficult.
So remember, Lincoln still does have those 8 pins on the handicap, but because PAIGE has been so good and consistent in making her spares, she's been able to overcome that.
Again, we brought this up so many times that spares are very important.
How much do you spend with your students just working on spares?
A lot.
A lot of time?
A lot of. I mean, again, they want to have the strikes and they have the capability of getting a lot of strikes, but spares are the most important thing. If you're gonna do better in life.
Sure. 145 is the final score that goes up on the board for Lincoln Law Jr. So
PAIGE just needs some good count.
Yeah, I was going to say, PAIGE just needs to get through this 10th frame safely, and she is going to, I don't know if we have a trophy for her to raise, but symbolically raise the trophy. And
there you go, that'll do
down. Oh, look at that thing still moving. But that'll do it. That'll get her the win. So a good performance, and again, just good shot making and good spare making for PAIGE FIORELLA. Is they're going to get her the win in the Classic Lanes Junior Bowling Championship. We'll talk to PAIGE and to Lincoln and wrap up our month-long stay here in Kenmore when we return on Beat the Champ. PAIGE FIORELLA with the victory over Lincoln Law to win our Classic Lanes Junior Bowling Championship. Lincoln, take me through this whole day of bowling on TV and getting to the championship. How did it feel?
It felt good and a little bit nervous going into the first game that I won, and then coming here was just nerve-wracking still. Good experience, though.
Yeah, as Brian and I were talking, spare making is something that you're going to spend a little time on, you think? It's important, isn't it? You kind of learned that today, didn't you? Yeah. On the flip side, PAIGE, your ability to make almost all of your spares is probably why you're standing here, right?
Yeah, I couldn't strike today, so I knew my spare game had to be on par today. So.
Is that something that you focus on or something that you pay extra attention to?
Yeah, every time I go to practice, I practice spares, so yes.
And this question for both of you, what is it that you enjoy so much about this sport of bowling, PAIGE, you get to start?
I just love the versatility of the sport. No matter what skill level you have, you can just come out here, compete, and have fun. And the people you meet and make friends, it's just, nothing beats that.
All right, how about for you, Lincoln?
It's just kind of like a hobby thing to get out and have fun, enjoy with people, get, friends around what you like doing, just overall having fun.
All right, good stuff. Mr. Borowski here's got some scholarship money for you.
All right, we got some scholarship money. Lincoln, you got $130. Paige, $160. We'll put that in a smart account, so when you guys are ready for college, you got a little extra.
All right, good stuff. Paige FIORELLA, Lincoln Law Jr., good bowling here. All 4 of our bowlers were outstanding. We'll come back and wrap up this week's show. Get you ready for next week's trip up to Grand Island. We're back on Beat the Champ right after this. Well, in addition to being an outstanding fill-in scorekeeper and a Hall of Fame bowler, Sue Jeziorska, you're also the bowling coach at the Uville College. So put your coaching hat on and take me through how these 4 performed here.
Honestly, I think they performed great. They're not used to seeing what they were bowling on. Hard to adjust when the lanes are completely different. I'm really proud of some of the spare shooting. Paige did a great job with their spares. But the kids were moving around, changing balls, so it's kind of nice to see that they're learning that at like an early age.
Yeah, you work with Paige, so that spare practice has paid off, didn't it?
Yeah, we work pretty hard. She's a good worker.
Yeah, congratulations to Paige on winning. Next week, before we head up to Grand Island, it's a little bit of our best of 2019 show. Not quite sure which ones they're going to pick for the best of matches, but we've got a lot to pick from. It's been a great year so far with terrific matches and terrific bowlers. And then in 2 weeks, it's Grand Island, where Andy Reddick, our advancing champion, will head on. So hopefully we see you there one way or the other.
I'll try.
All right, Sue Navoyski will be back with us, but we thank Sue for filling in and Brian for doing a great job as well, too. More Beat the Champ coming your way in the ensuing weeks, but it's been a great month here in Kenmore. We'll see you next week.